Hi, Randy Crabtree here. Before we start today's episode, I just wanted to give you a quick update. The Bridging the Gap conference is coming up soon, July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th in Rosemont, Illinois. I want to thank our sponsors, our diamond sponsor, which is FreshBooks, and our platinum sponsors, RateWorks and Intuit. We couldn't do this conference without their support, so I want to thank them tremendously. And ask you to go visit their websites so you can get more information and help us support them. And now on to the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Randy Crabtree. We're committed to creating a thriving community of accounting professionals who are physically and mentally healthy, fulfilled, and energized by their work. Our ultimate goal is to elevate the reputation of the accounting profession and vastly improve the lives of those in it. The Unique CPA is brought to you by Tri-Merit, the specialty tax professionals.
Today our guest is Dan Luthi. Dan is a partner at Ignite Spot Outsourced Accounting. At least that's the name I wrote down. He'll correct me if I'm wrong on that. They help companies throughout the U.S. by improving accounting, reporting, and technology systems. Again, if I got that wrong, Dan will correct it. Dan, welcome to the Unique CPA.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Randy. And you are completely right. That's exactly what it is. It's a little long, but that's exactly what it is. You're totally right.
All right. Because when I said it, I thought, I didn't know if the outsourced was in there or not. So outsourced is in there. There you go. It makes sense. That's what you do.
Yeah. Well, but to that same point, it was needed when we first created the name like 10 years ago, because most small businesses didn't kind of understand what we were trying to do. And nowadays you really don't. So we drop it in some spaces, but technically that is the full name for sure.
All right, got it. All right, so I gave the quick intro there. You've been in the profession for a while, doing some things. You want to give us a little more background on you and maybe Ignite Spot, or even how you got to where you are now? Because one of the discussion points, and probably the main discussion point we're gonna have today, is talking about corporate culture and the importance of it. So I'm guessing your history may tie into that a little.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I started actually out working at Ignite Spot. Ignite Spot's been around for 15 years this year. I started out working in the firm about 13 years ago, and I began as a bookkeeper. I was working part-time as I was finishing my undergrad, and that was just interesting to me on all the things that we were doing and the space that we were working in. I've always loved small business and always worked with small businesses or worked in small businesses before. Most of them were manufacturing or construction-based jobs, and really just kind of fell in love with the direction and the focus, and worked my way up throughout the organization over the years, and became a partner at the beginning of 2022 this last year with another member of our team. So there's 3 total partners now, but yeah, no, it's been an exciting journey for us. It's really been fun to participate in all of it too.
So when did Ignite Spot actually start?
So that's a really good question. So we actually started out as dashboard accountants.
Okay.
15 years ago, and it was really more focused around trying to create this presentation for small businesses that we were going to work with. And really the kind of the crux of where the company began was our senior partner was an auditor and working with small businesses or doing an audit on a small business, and found out that the bookkeepers that worked for him had overreported his cash by $50,000. So he, of course, had to flag that and communicate that to the client, and the client just completely broke down. Seeing that big of a drop in your cash balance when you're trying to grow is massive, especially 15 years ago when you're just trying to bootstrap everything. And so he felt terrible walking away from that audit and from that experience, and felt like there had to be a better way on how to support clients. And so, of course, we started out as dashboard because you wanted to present that, but we also found over the years that our intent was never just to be a single reporting based solution. It was to be a place to create energy and growth for opportunities for our clients and for our team. And Ignite Spot kind of evolved from that over I think it was about 10, 11 years ago.
Wow. And so the one thing that you said is you started there while you were still working on your undergrad. So you've basically had one company you've worked with, one firm you've worked with your entire career.
100%. Yep. Never worked for another accounting firm at all. I had a really good friend, or my brother had a friend or a neighbor that worked for a regional firm, and I went and met with them, and it just wasn't the feel that I was looking for. I didn't love the environment. It was very very uptight, and I dress way different now than I did definitely when I first started in the industry.
Yep.
We dressed in, button-up shirts and things like that, but being virtual, we have a little more control over that. But that was just too stuffy for me. Like having to wear a tie every day was too much. So found a place that was a very different culture and very different opportunity for me.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool. One spot, you don't see that a lot anymore. And then the fact that we were going to talk about culture today, I'm really interested to see if from day one, is that why you've been there? The culture was just great, or is this something evolved over time? What would the input on that be from you?
Definitely. I think a lot of it kind of starts with just who I am as a person individually.
Yep.
I grew up in a very blue collar environment and always had plans to do something like that. And so when I was going to school at the University of Utah getting my undergrad, I went to a Beta Alpha Psi meeting because they told you that you had to do that kind of stuff. And luckily it was the presenters were actually from Skull Candy headphones.
Oh,
And
wow.
these guys came in wearing trucker hats and like flannel shirts before. I mean, and the funny thing is now, of course, that style's back in style nowadays. And they just flat out said, like, we started our career in public accounting and we found that it wasn't for us. Like, and they really focused on make sure you find a fit that like makes you feel like you're a part of the company, that you're excited about what you do, that the energy is there. And like that extremely stuck with me, like 100%. And so when I started working at this job, at first it was get some experience. It was like, kind of create some opportunities, learn so you can decide where you want to go after. And I loved the clients that we worked with. I loved the opportunity and like the service culture that we were trying to focus on. I think we've created a different type of culture over the years, but it was really focused around the deliverable, which was exciting to me. And I just loved it. I fell in love with that story, and I fell in love with that relationship that we had with clients, and I've never left because of it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So let's jump into culture then. Corporate culture, company culture, I don't know, people experience, client experience,
Yeah.
whatever, wherever we go with this. But so I have this problem with being able to define what a good culture is. I feel, and I think it's spelled out with the people that work with us, but I feel we have a really good culture. We don't lose people. People stick around. People tell their friends about, Tri-Merit. They come work with us. Relatives come work with us. High school best friends, college room, all this stuff. And it's around the culture, but putting that into words, knowing it exists and putting it in words is really tough for me. I
Yeah.
don't know. Hey, are you able to define a good culture or what it is that you're doing at Ignite Spot that is so cool?
I thought about this quite a bit since you and I talked a couple weeks ago, and I feel like the culture aspect is just creating an environment where people want to cohesively work together with the same amount of energy and direction.
Yeah.
To me, that's really the framework of it, because there's some organizations where you get 50 people together that are just like heads down, run forward as fast as you possibly can. Like that's normal. They love it. They love that excitement. They love that energy. You see it in startups. You see it in things like that. But you also see at the same time too with organizations where people have been around for a really long time, where it's more of a family atmosphere and encouragement and things like that, that they have a great culture, which is very different than the other organization. And some people say certain things are toxic, but I think that's also too like the toxicity may not just be, it may just be because it's not a best fit for you as an individual, but could be a great culture fit for someone else.
That's true. That's true. So, and again, I am, developing some presentations on this now that I want to start giving. It actually ties in with me. For me, with the mental health presentations I do, because I think that's a huge part of it. If you're creating a culture or environment where people feel, that they can be themselves and that they can, they aren't stressed out and they understand that getting their work done is important, but being themselves is important as well. I think that's great. Is there any specific initiatives you think that you do to make this experience good for the people you work with?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, our goal is always to create an opportunity for people to grow and develop. That I feel like is the culture focus that we've always tried to create here, whether it's growing and developing into, in the organization, or growing and developing and creating opportunities for yourself outside the company. We don't shy away from that at all. So, to your comment you made earlier about, your people stay and they love it and they go through that. We have people that leave and we're excited for where they're going because
Yep.
it's a new adventure that's outside of what we can provide to them. And I love that. I love creating those opportunities. It's always sad to see people go, but if we can't take you to that next tier, I hope that someone else or the next opportunity can. But to that being said, I mean, we really do put a lot of emphasis and energy on training and teaching and coaching our team and setting up practices so that they can be able to have good quality of life and balance with all of those things. And I think that shows in how people interact with each other and the culture we've created for the organization overall.
Yeah, what you said there, and I think you and I talked about this. Just as a side note, we've been on group text chats together for a while, but we literally just met. Was it about 2 weeks ago? Right
About
now,
2 weeks
out in
ago,
St.
yeah, in
Louis.
person. Yep.
Yeah, and it was great because it's nice to. That's one of the things. Just nice to meet the person that you feel like you know already, just from text chats or social media or wherever.
Definitely.
And so that was so much fun. But one thing you just said there that I agree completely is celebrating. If someone is going to move on, and celebrating them going to the next level that
Yeah.
you can't provide for them. And we have a person like that right now. And I may have talked to you about this, but we had somebody in the last 7 years. I think we've had maybe 2 people leave, and we're at 65 people right now.
Oh, wow.
One was and she was the spouse of she is of one of our partners, and she was working part-time with us while, she was, raising the kids and everything, traditional type family unit from that standpoint. But she's an engineer and decided, it's time to go back to work full time, and got a really great engineering role that she wanted to use those skills. You can use engineering skills with us. And so that was awesome. I mean, seeing her now going and using these skills that she, developed in college. We had someone else leave recently that we didn't want to happen, but they did, and that's fine. But that's one person that in the last 7 years, and now we have somebody that's going to be leaving at the end of the summer because he decided he wants to go to medical school.
Oh, wow.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's great. I love him. He does great work. And and the thing that I think helps define culture a little bit for me is he decided to tell us in March that this was happening because he had no concerns that we were going to say, okay, you got to leave now, or he wanted to make sure we're all prepared for him to move on. And so it's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And he said, I'm staying through, if you'll have me, I'm going to want to stay through August until school starts or whatever the timing is. And from that standpoint, that helps me understand that there's a culture. Again, the definition is not there, but exactly what you said. See them progress, and this is a
100%.
completely change, but progression is pretty cool.
Well, we had an experience a little while ago with one of our, and working in the CAS space, we have clients who come and go depending on the size and growth or opportunities they have. And we don't work generally with publicly traded companies or things like that, but we had a client who wanted to go public. And so we, of course, agreed to part ways over time. And they actually asked to take one of our employees with them. When they parted ways. And I had a lot of conversations with this employee, and she was amazing. I mean, I wish she was still here today, but she and I were talking about just the opportunities it would create for her and the adventures and things like that. It was 2 years ago, but we're still good friends. We communicate with each other. I applaud the things that she's doing. They just actually had the opportunity to go public within the last 12 months. I'm nothing but excited about those opportunities for people, because that's not an adventure that we can create for an employee. I can't give her that, but I can give her relationship and values, and we can still remain as positive friends. And I had another employee who left us in January, and I've referred work to her. It's just clients that we don't necessarily work in, and she did some work for us as she was getting her organization started. I mean, it's that kind of stuff that I think breeds that connection, whether it's with staying with it or just remaining connected. That's really where that culture, reigns true after the fact as well, that these people still want to be your friends. They still want to connect and know you, and they have mutual respect for what you're trying to create in the same process.
Yeah, and I think that's another way you can start defining it. I'm working on this. I'm taking all your quotes here. I'm going to add that to my definition of culture. Same thing with us. One of our probably first 10 hires, I would say he was probably employee number 8. We worked with us for a few years doing project management work. He's an attorney as well. Just had this opportunity to go be, I wasn't general counsel, but work for, a large corporation in their, general counsel type department. Yeah. It was like, well, we can't give you that. And we're still friends. In fact, After he left, I was at his wedding, which was a really cool event.
That's awesome.
It's an Indian wedding, and so they really do it up. And man, it was just cool to be part of that. It was fun, but still to this day, this was 12 years ago probably. We still communicate. We say so. Same thing again.
Yeah.
Trying to define culture more. Are there other things that you see that you can add to my definition? I'm using you for research now.
Yeah, we'll just tie it all into ChatGPT, right? But no, I mean, I think it's truly, I think at the end of the day, it's the type of experience that you guys create for each other.
Right.
I really do feel like that's really the case, and if your energy is focused in the same directions, you're going to go far, and people are going to be able to string and connect to it. Also, recognizing maybe where your energy is pushed in the wrong direction and making adjustments to it. I mean, there's times where, and I'm sure you felt this over the years too, where you feel like there's a focus you have to make in order to make the next leap organizationally, to hit a revenue number or to expand capabilities or go into a new market. And you realize that it's not the right space or time or focus for your team, and your team's feeling stressed and overworked with it, and it's the wrong direction. So you have to accept that and make an adjustment and move in a different space, or figure out how to teach them to be able to grow and evolve with it too. And I'm sure, I mean, you guys deal with credits. I'm sure that's how it was. You kind of thrust in the lion's den with ERC credits, where it was like, hey, we're figuring this out because it's an opportunity for us to help people. And
Yep.
I'm sure some people didn't love it when you first started it because there was so much going on, but now it's a part of who you are, and the service offering you have and the values that you have from your other products carry over to it. And so, I mean, I think this is something that evolves as a part of who you are as an entity.
Yeah, you really get me thinking here, because that same thing when you just said the ERC. So we obviously were tax credits and incentives. ERC was just an opportunity. I got addicted to it as soon as the changes happened in the Consolidated Appropriation Act, which was the end of 20, which really opened the ERC up.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like, I don't think we're going to be able to do this as a service. I'm going to learn it. I started educating people on it just because I was so into it. But then I thought, well, if we do get opportunities, we can outsource it to someone else. I knew a large CPA firm that was working on it, and I'm like, okay, I was talking to them a lot. I'm like, okay, if we get opportunities, we're going to outsource it. And then one of our newer employees, although somebody I've known for 17 years, and that's the other thing, I've known this guy for a long time, he came to me and said, Randy, no, we have to do this internally. We have to. This is such a huge opportunity. And so that's another culture. People feel open to share, feel to take control. And I told him, I said, I'll learn this. I'll educate. I'll talk about it. I am not going to do the work. I am not going to set up the credit model. I'm not going to do that. I'll talk to people about it if you want to run it. And man, he just went with it.
That's awesome.
He created our first credit model, which has completely changed since then, but he went out and created it. He put together just the whole, talking points for everything. And so that's another, I think, area where it's like, if you have an environment of openness, that people feel that their thoughts are going to be heard, their ideas are going to be heard, I think that's just creates another place where people just like to be part of. And the important part of this, we haven't even said it again, the important part of this whole thing with culture is, our profession is having a hard time attracting and retaining employees. And if you create this culture that like this, that just goes, I think, above and beyond to create an environment people want to be part of.
Oh, 100%. And I think too, kind of similar to your context where you talk about the employees bringing things in and asking about things. We work, of course, with a lot with technology, being a virtual firm, and we've had virtual employees for almost 10 years now. Our employees are oftentimes the first person to recognize or recommend an application for us to work on with clients. Well, that's an important part of who we are as a company, is to allow for that type of discovery and opportunity for the team to give recommendations, because that may completely change the landscape of what we do and how we do things. And it's funny, our director of accounting services here at Ignite Spot's been with us for 8 years this year. And he's recommended some of the greatest apps that we've installed and instilled in our organization that have changed the landscape of the service offerings that we have within our team. And so, I mean, I'm deeply grateful for his willingness to, of course, be open, but also grateful that we created an environment that he was comfortable to be able to say, hey, I like this. Can we learn a little bit more about it? And is it something that can change the way we do work? And it's been awesome.
So there's another thing that's really important that you just said, that is, there's so much fear, it feels like, around being a virtual office. How are you going to create a culture when nobody's in the same spot? How are you going to get people to be, love being part of this organization? And we're pretty much virtual as well. I mean, we have 65 people. They're all around the country. We do have an office, but nobody's ever there. I mean, honestly, we have a inside sales team that does go in probably once a week. They're just all in one spot. They just helps them because they can share ideas, what they've learned, what they've
Yeah.
seen. But they can do that virtually too. They just all happen to be in the Chicago area, so they can get together. Is there any specifics that you do to create this camaraderie around everybody being part of a team, even though they're not all in the same spot?
Yeah. So I would say pre-pandemic, we used to have a very like heavy 50-50 distinction between people who were virtual and a
Yep.
physical office. And we were just finding that it was hard to create that connection
Yep.
for everybody. And so actually at the tail end of 2018, we had a conversation with our team that said, we want everybody in the same position. And
Okay.
whether it's good or bad, we really want to create the environment where everybody has the same opportunities. And I'm not just going to fire my really great employees in Florida because we have people here in Utah. And so we asked our team, what do you want? And the funny thing was every single one of them were like excited to go home. It wasn't like, I mean, they saw the energy right there at the start that said, well,
Yep.
yeah, I want the same opportunities they have. And I don't want to have weird conversations because it's hard to communicate what we had in the office versus not. And it was encouraging that right before the pandemic, all that happened. So we downsized our office. I think it was truly, we signed the contract in November
Yeah.
of 2018. And then of course the pandemic happened and all the rest of us in our office space went home and then we closed it out. But that is one of the things that I think going all in on that relationship for we want the best quality people in this organization and those are the people we're willing to invest into and so everybody has the same experience plus also just trying to create a communication has been big. But I will say this, over the years we've evolved it. We used to have more one-on-one meetings or more team-related meetings. We were finding that sometimes that was distracting for people too, who just want to do a really good job. And so we've kind of manufactured the way that our interactions are. But we've also added in some different things. We were doing a monthly lunch and learn where you get together and learn something from a partner or from a leadership person. We moved that to quarterly to kind of tie into our traction rocks and goals. But on the other months, we're actually tying in new company activities. And so we're using a tool that provides virtual environments with activities to do things together. And so like this next month, it's like an escape room, a virtual escape room. And
Oh yeah.
so
Yep.
people can sign up for that. And I think those are the kind of things that they're not massively expensive for a virtual
Right.
organization, but it brings a group of people together and makes them feel like it's not just work that they're socializing with. Like they can have fun and it's okay and they get paid to do it.
Yeah, we do some of that online virtual, what was the last one we had? It was bring your pet to the office day, even
Yeah.
though the office is at home, and
Yeah.
everybody would have we all, we're showing off our dogs and cats and lizards or whatever it was, and
That's
and, and,
awesome.
and talking about it, and so things like that. But we're very fortunate, twice a year we all get together too in one spot, and I think that just helps have fun, but we can do that virtually
Yeah.
as well. One of the things that I think is important, and I'm guessing you're going to agree as well, is that just getting to know the people other than their job title. Their job title is important, what they do is important, but that solely doesn't define who they are. And so we're very, very big on, and I think he's going to get annoyed that I mention his name so much, but John Garrett and What's Your And? In fact, I just had a call with John yesterday, and John and Jason Stats, actually, we had a call yesterday, and
Oh, that's
they were
awesome.
kind of making fun of me of how much
How much you talk
I
about him.
yeah,
That's funny.
but so we celebrate people's ands. I never called it that until I met John, but that's what I call it now. Do you do anything around that?
Yeah, I feel like, and this is something that, I mean, over the years, as I've evolved as a manager and a leader, I've realized that the human connection is the most important part of being a leader. So, me understanding and knowing who these people are and understanding their family and their spouse's job and, pets and things like that is crucial.
Yep.
It's super important because I think it helps them to understand that you actually care about them as a person and as a human, not just a cog in your organizational wheel. And I think that's something that's super significant for us to pay attention to, and for us to be open and honest with. And I've tried to communicate that as much as possible to my team, that it's anytime there's a new leader comes in, the first thing I ask you to do is, we're not changing workflow, we're not evaluating 1,000 things. Know these people, like understand who they are, like understand what's going on in their life today, because the moment they feel that connection with you,
Yep.
they're going to let you know when they don't understand something. They're going to let you
Right.
know when they need to learn something. And I'll use the example of this. I mean, our director of accounting services, his name's Corbin right now. He's been, like, as I mentioned before, he's been with us for 8 years. Well, there was a period of time where he was a leader before in our organization. And he and I had a conversation where he said, this role doesn't fit me.
Hmm.
It's not what I want to do, and it doesn't make me feel like I'm accomplishing things. And I said, okay, great. Like, I respect that. Well, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, I really like the idea of going into controller services. And we were just starting to kind of tee up a controller level service here at Ignite Spot. So it was like, great, let's start with you. Let's invest in that place. And we brought a new director in, and he did a great job for almost 2 years working in that role and building it out and building customer expectations and relationships. And when the person left, who was the director, I asked him, like, are you interested in going down this road? Here's what's changed in the role. Here's what we're working on. And he was excited to move into it. And so it was one of those things where I think, like, situations like that, you'll never have the opportunity unless you create those relationships where people feel like they can be direct with you either and tell you what they feel like is best for them and not for them.
Yep. And I think one of the biggest things, and you mentioned leadership there, in my mind, and I'm not perfect. Anybody can disagree with me, but I think as a leader, being vulnerable, showing empathy, I mean, those things are so important because let me give you a quick story. I think I might have told you this. I don't know. But I do a lot of presentations on mental health, and I did one recently for a big firm. And at the end of that presentation, we're talking about burnout in the profession, which is way too common, and there's so many
100%.
things we could do about it. But at the end of this presentation, I mean, in there I talk about mental illness as well, and depression and anxiety and all these things that can develop if we don't control the stress in our profession. And at the end of this presentation, this managing partner comes up, on stage with me and starts thanking me and talking about it and starts sharing, being vulnerable, sharing his story, dealing with depression in his family. Obviously, he, was getting emotional, and you could just see, I'm looking in the audience, and I could see that, man, they felt so like this openness that they can now talk about anything because he's there sharing this. He's being vulnerable. He's showing how important it is to allow these things to be in the open and not stigmatized or anything. And that vulnerability, I could tell that changed. I think not their environment was bad because they already had me in to talk about something like this, but it just changed the atmosphere, and I'm guessing that made a big difference for the people that work there. So that was pretty cool to see.
Well, that's the leveling up aspect, right? Like, that's the opportunity, because I think this is the part that a lot of people miss when they're trying to figure out how to create a culture. Sometimes they go over the top, right? They look at, well, Google used to do this, or Apple does this, or I heard this really great thing about what Randy did on his podcast, and so I want to try that right away, right?
Yep.
And the reality of it is that might not be the best fit for you as an organization to do those things. I mean, when we were in person, we tried the beanbag toss and cornhole and ping pong and all that other kind of stuff.
Right.
And it wasn't our culture. It wasn't who we were as a company. The human side was something that was more important to us, like connecting with people for their individual, natures and things that they love and all that kind of stuff. Like, that was much more significant for us as a company. And so as we've dove into it, 100%, we've become more vulnerable over the time, but we didn't start being like, hey, here's my baggage, know who I am, and this is what it's going to be. It's a very different environment. And I mean, one of the people on my team is like, absolutely loves Taylor Swift. And I joke with her a little bit about it because, honestly, I don't mind her music. I think it's great. I think she's a wonderful performer. My daughter loves her too. And so we always joke about it. So when she was in concert, she went to it. Like, we chatted for like 10 minutes on Slack about how great the concert was. Like, those kind of things that, I'm this big burly bearded, partner in this firm. Like, no one wants to have a conversation about Taylor Swift. Like, it was just fun to make sure to see what kind of experience she had. And I loved that she felt comfortable enough to be able to talk about it. And I think those are the simple things. And it's not just laying down all these, walls that you have as an individual and being open about every part of your life. But
Right.
vulnerability is important in the process. And I think Brene Brown probably communicates that better than anybody when it comes to the power of vulnerability.
Yeah, I need to follow her more and start reading some of her books because I keep hearing that, and I know she talks about vulnerability a lot, and
Yeah.
and I've done a little research on her, but I need to. We need to get her on the podcast.
Yeah.
There we go. So
Seriously, she's amazing.
yeah, I need to do that. All right, I want to say one last thing, and I feel like I'm bragging. That's not the point. But you had mentioned this earlier, when new people start and everything, and how you do it. One thing that I do, and I probably surprise people a little bit. Maybe I should warn them. But when a new person starts, I get an automatic Teams message that's we use Rippling for payroll, and it goes through Rippling, and it automatically tells me, hey, this person's starting on this day. And so I try to, as early as possible into their Trimeric career, just randomly call them on Teams. That may freak them out. Well, they may not even know who I am. Hey,
Yeah.
who's this Randy? Why is he calling me? But I call them, and I don't talk about work at all. It's just about, hey, just want, welcome to the team, but just wanted to get to know you and, tell me what your passions are, what you enjoy doing, tell me about your family, tell me whatever. And just getting to know the people. I think that I just thought that this was normal. And our head of HR, when she came on, she goes, Randy, that's amazing. Can you keep doing that with everybody? I said, I do that with everybody. Because I did it with her. And she's like, okay, yeah. And so that I think is so important just to get, and you had mentioned it, to get to know the people.
Yeah, 100%. That human connection is probably one of the most valuable assets you have as a member of a team.
Yep.
Is being able to make sure, because those are the moments when you realize that you can push a little bit harder and support one another. Those are the moments where you feel like you have to push back or pull back, and it helps you to feel much more confident and a better workflow overall.
Yep. Well, this conversation helped me a lot in many ways. Any wrap you want to put on the conversation we had today?
Yeah, I think just for me, I love the comment you made about you're not being perfect. And I think that's the hardest part about trying to create a good environment for people is that's the vulnerability that a leader has to have, is that you are not perfect in what you do. And you're going to make mistakes along the way and things you may regret in the future. But just starting and just trying, I think, is some of the most important things that we as a leader can do, is just trying to create an environment for people to be successful. And eventually you'll find that formula that works really, really well for the people who you want to be around too. And that's where it has to begin, is you being comfortable accepting that you're not perfect and you don't have all the answers and everything.
Oh, believe me, I'm far from perfect right now.
Me too.
You and I were talking about I'm a kind of a mess right now, which is not normal for me. It's just busy time of year, and I probably disappointed about 4 people today that I have to make up for, and that's not normal.
Yeah.
But that's
conference season.
Exactly.
It does it to you.
That's what it is. So, all right, before we close it out, and we talked about, the importance of getting to know people, who they are. And so that's the question for you. Hey, you're doing this work, you're Ignite Spot, you're helping companies, but what's your passions outside of work? What do you enjoy doing?
Honestly, I always get a huge amount of compliments about the office doors that are behind me. I was
going to say that
in my picture. Yep. I love woodworking.
Okay.
That's something I've been passionate about almost my entire life. My brother is actually a finished carpenter.
Oh, wow.
I built these by myself, and I do a lot of things like that on the side, which I absolutely love. I also love just spending time with my kids, showing them and learning and helping teach them in that space. And I got 4 awesome kids. So those are probably 2 of my main passions that I absolutely just love doing things with. So,
yep. And how old are the kids?
15, 12, 11, and 7.
All right. You got a lot going on there. And anybody who's has kids probably that are under college age, that's the answer all the time. Now, my kids are my passion, but they're in their late 20s. And so I love seeing them as much as I can. But yeah, the woodworking, the family, that's awesome.
Yeah. Kids are constantly busy. That is 100% the truth on that.
Oh, so. I'm sure. And I miss those days, actually. So don't, I'm sure you are well into being part of that whole growing up process, which is so much fun.
Definitely.
All right. And then if anybody wants to find out more about you, Ignite Spot, anything else, where would they get a hold of you?
Honestly, the best place to do it is on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there and watching everything on there and trying to post and be a part of things. And so just Dan Luthi on LinkedIn. And then Ignite Spot is on LinkedIn or on our website as well, just ignitespot.com. Always got some new articles and things that we're writing and things we're posting that are helpful for profession, but also small businesses throughout the United States.
All right, awesome. Well, Dan, I really appreciate you being here. It was a fun conversation, and I'm sure we will continue it off air at some point when we run into each other again.
Definitely. No, I appreciate it, Randy. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and learn more about TriMerit at theuniquecpa.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on the Unique CPA. Professionalproductions.net